Hey everyone, what's up? In the last video we created a random player class here so that we can test our application. And today we're going to add mouse listeners to our squares here so that we can select our pieces and move them around. So in order to do that, let's go ahead and create a new package inside our application plugin. Example chess app listener, and inside this package let's add a new class called chess move listener, and this class will implement the mouse listener interface. We have to add the unimplemented methods. As you see, there are three methods in the mouse listener interface. So this one handles the mouse double click event, and the second one handles the single click event, and the third one handles the mouse up event, which triggers whether you double click or single click. So for example, when you double click something, this method will execute, and immediately afterwards this method will execute. And when you single click something, this method will execute, and again this will immediately after will execute. So we have to assign different responsibilities or different functionalities for each of those events. So for example, when we double click one of our pieces, so for example when I double click this, I want to select this piece so that I can move it someplace else with the single click event. So I will double click this and single click here, and my piece will go from D2 to D4, for example. And let's start implementing this functionality. In order to do that, we have to add mouse listeners to our squares, of course. So inside this construct method in the chessboard part, where we are creating our labels here, we have to add mouse listeners to our labels as well. So C+1 add mouse listener, new chess move listener. So now each label has a mouse listener, has its own mouse listener, and actually we want these mouse listeners know about the labels that they are responsible for. So squares are C+1. They have to know which square it's responsible for, because it's going to check the piece on it and whatnot. So of course we have to create a constructor for that. Public chess label, this label is equal to label, and add a new private field, final label. Alright, so this object knows about its label now, and we can start implementing this method here. So here I want to get firstly a reference to the piece object that is on this square. So piece label get data. Of course we have to cast this to a square object. Get piece. Alright, So let me open that up again. So I have to check some conditions here, because when I double click this, there are no problems, but if I click double click a square, an empty square such as this, or when I double click a square that a black piece resides, I don't want this to do anything, because I only can select my own pieces. So I have to check that there is a white piece on the square. So if, first of all, it has to be not null, and also piece get side has to be white. So I have to add a get side method to the piece class. Here it has a side field, but it doesn't have a getter yet. Public side gets side turn side. Alright, so if it's a white piece, now I have to get all the possible squares, or all the legal squares that this piece can move to. So for example, when I double click this, I have to get those two squares so that I can label them. For square piece compute legal moves. So inside this for loop, I will label each square as legal. So square set legal. So of course we don't have a set legal method yet, so we have to create this and add a new field, boolean. And also a getter, public boolean is legal. Alright, this legal field will be used by our graphical user interface. So when this part is focused, this, let me open up that, this set focus method will check each square and look at its legal state. If it's legal, instead of painting it as dark gray or white, it will paint it as, for example, blue. So we might as well add it now. So if squares, so let me copy that actually. Is legal. So for example, set this to color blue. Alright. So that's why we are adding a legal field inside this square class. So moving on, here, of course we have to make this true. We are going to reset those states after each turn, of course. And now there are some other things that we have to do here. For instance, we have to save this piece globally as a selected piece, so that this method will know which piece to move. So selected piece is equal to piece, and also we have to create a static field here, piece. And also we have another static field, a flag that indicates we have selected a piece. So we can name this double clicked. This also will let this mouse down method know that we have double clicked a piece and selected a piece. So here we are going to set double clicked true. We are doing this inside this if clause because for example, when I double click this, I don't want this state to be true because I didn't select any piece. So now we have implemented this method, double click method, and I don't want to make this video any longer. I guess I'm going to wrap this up here. In the next video we are going to add the functionality to display this blue color when we select our pieces. So we have to execute this set focus method somehow after selecting the piece so that this will refresh, and that's what we are going to do in the following video. So see you later, take care.